Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. So thank you for joining us in this session. My name is Sal, and I'm a T-Mobile customer. Outside of my job, I'm a consumer, and I've been very excited by the kinds of things that T-Mobile has been able to do for me as a consumer. You know, the fact that I can get free text messages on planes, I get transparent, clear pricing. You know, the activation fee stuff is all kind of gone. They've just cleared it up and made it really easy to work with them. I've got binging. I can, watch a video till my heart's content. I have, data buckets, all kinds of things I can do. I've been very pleased as a consumer for these things. And if I ever have trouble, if I'm in Facebook and I'm doing things, I can interface to them through their chatbot technology, get access to information, figure out when I can upgrade phones, data plans, those kinds of things, and never even skip a beat from watching cat videos and stuff that I do on Facebook. So it's all kind of integrated into one experience, one environment. So when I step aside from who I am as a consumer, I'm Sal, CTO of Elastic Path. It might be a company that you've heard of or not heard of. We've been in the e-commerce space for about 17 years. And we've been lucky to have some customers, some very progressive customers like T-Mobile. We'll have them come on in a few minutes and talk about kind of what they've done with Elastic Path, headless API-driven commerce platform. So the things we're going to talk about today, and hopefully this will resonate with some of you in the crowd, is how you innovate within commerce. So commerce used to be this kind of one stack. You put up your product catalog, you have your shopping carts, people come in, they do searching through the product catalog, and then they kind of go through the checkout process. Commerce has become so much more than that, and hopefully we'll give you some insight into the things that we're seeing our customers do, and we'll have T-Mobile come up and talk about some of the things that they do. We've heard a lot of this conference around agility. Technical agility gives you business agility. And we'll talk a lot about separating front end from back end and the kind of agility that gives you as an organization to be able to move at different paces. So we've been very focused in on the API-driven headless commerce stack. Years ago, we used to have a full-out commerce platform with the front end. And we decided, with this world of IoT coming and all these new touch points coming, that we would rip the head off the stack. It sounds like a gory analogy, but we'll talk more about what that means. When you take that head off the stack, and the head being the part that really manages the user experience, what is that going to enable? And I'll talk a little bit about, it's not just about kind of putting an API there, it's a little bit more than that. But a lot can come from that. So the kinds of messages we heard today in the keynotes, I thought really resonated with what we're trying to do at Elastic Path around build systems that aren't really there necessarily to last. Of course, the systems we put in place, we want to last. But there's so much change that's occurred in the last 5, 10 years. Imagine the kind of change we're going through in the next 10 years. Right? So you want a platform that gives you some degree of future proof, that gives you the ability to kind of test new models, to try things fast, to fail fast, to learn from that, and to eventually, we don't always want to fail. If we're going to fail, we want to fail fast and get to those things that will get us to some success in terms of how we engage with our customers. So those are kind of the core themes that we're going to touch on today in different ways. Since we're at a Gartner conference, Magic Quadrant does a good job at representing digital commerce and the various vendors. And sorry, it's very small here, but Elastic Path is right there. So we are identified as a visionary, and we are really pleased at how Gartner recognizes the fact that we've been all about embedding commerce in the experience, separating out the experience from the commerce platform. So a lot of what Gartner follows in us really is that kind of message that we're talking about today. So we're very pleased at their understanding of our value proposition and differentiation from the kind of the big stack solutions. So commerce, we all know it very well from web and from mobile and mobile apps. We're starting to see commerce in more social contexts, social media, conversational commerce, now that kind of integration with bots, like I mentioned, Facebook bots. So our point of this diagram is that as you start to add these touch points, the degree of complexity is going to go up. And my thesis is we're going to be adding a lot more touch points. The kind of technologies we're talking about today, there's going to be so many different touch points that a consumer can use to interface with the organization. So IoT is coming. We've heard this over and over. You're probably tired of it. IoT, Internet of Everything, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. We know it is coming. But we see it all around us. This world, I think even one of the analysts this morning called it the digital mesh. I really like that term that was introduced a couple years ago, that we have a mesh of connectivity around us. So the machines are coming, and there are many kinds of these devices. And like I said, some are going to work, and many won't. A very simple example is kind of these IoT devices that you just push the button and something happens. A physical action causes a digital transaction. Now, you might have next to your laundry machine, whenever you're getting low on soap, you push that, and maybe it adds it to your shopping list, or maybe it actually transacts directly. If you have goldfish crackers for your kids, just don't leave those IoT devices anywhere near them, or they'll be sitting there pushing them, and you'll get 20 of these things at your doorstep in 2 hours. So you want to be careful where you put these kinds of things. A very simple technology that shows how physical can interface with digital. And this is the world. Around us, we're going to be digitized all around us. So our appliances in our house, our connected homes, everything's getting smarter. Everything's getting IoT, internet enabled. So your fridge is going to have a sense of what's in the fridge, when your milk's going to expire, when you're getting low on certain inventory. So you're going to get these smart appliances that will give you a sense of what you need when you need it. And again, depending on the amount of friction you want to put in the process, you might want to have some rules that say, I never want to run out of milk. I want to make sure I always have milk that's a couple of days away from expiry at the latest, and I want half a gallon of milk or whatever it happens to be. So you can start to set up those kinds of rules and have the automation built into that. I find augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality to be very interesting. I think augmented reality is one of these technologies that is extremely disruptive. Imagine being in a grocery store, because we're still going to do things in the physical world, using your phone with all iOS 11 phones, and a lot of the Google Android phones have augmented reality kits built into them. You can have an application that as I'm going down the aisle, I look to the aisle through my phone, and it starts to highlight the things that are on my shopping list that I may need. It may start to promote things to me, give me offers in the moment. You buy this product, you get this product for free. You get 50% off. Imagine the kind of engagement model. Now, we're all going to throw up examples like this, and sometimes you'll sit there and go, that's not very believable, or it's not something I'm going to use. Maybe it's not. But the point is here you can experiment and try something very quickly. In the old days, it would take us months to do things like this. Now we're getting to a point where we can do it in days, sometimes a couple of weeks, sometimes even a couple of hours to get a proof of concept up and running. So the world is getting exciting. Disney had this concept of magic band, and a lot of you have probably used it, where it's your identification, it's your virtual currency. You walk in and you can kind of badge in if you have access or the entitlements. You can go in, you can pay with it, that type of thing. So we've seen that kind of wearable device start to really enable these in-experience situations. Carnival Cruise Line is a customer of Elastic Path, and this is a phenomenal one. We get so excited by this. We actually were on the cruise a couple weeks ago as they start to roll out the technology. But everybody has a wearable device called the Medallion, and as you walk around the ship, there's sensors all around the ship. They recognize where you are, they recognize who you are, they recognize what you're interested in, and we start to merchandise to you. And the term merchandise sounds so old school in some ways, but as I'm on a ship, if we're coming into port tomorrow, I walk by one of the digital displays they have. As I walk past, it says, hey, Sal, I see we're going to Jamaica tomorrow morning. You don't have an excursion lined up. Do you want me to book you on a level 2 scuba course, because I know you've already done a level 1? Or do you want me to book you a cabana with beer in a cooler? Having that level of personalization and capability brought to me. Gartner likes to use the term commerce that comes to you. We're big believers in that concept. And we've been talking about this idea where, on this kind of cruise ship, you are very much it's like a microcosm of the way the world is going to be, right? We're going to be here at a conference. There's going to be beacons and instrumentation all around us. And it'll allow us to be able to do more, to find the sessions you want to go to book the restaurants that you want to go to after, those types of things. So again, it kind of gives you a glimpse into the world the way it's going to be. Whether you agree that's a good thing or not, that's up to you. But we get excited by the potential here. And you as organizations want to enable your end users to be able to do new and cool things. Okay? So if you come to our booth, we'll talk endlessly about what we've done with Carnival and the vision that's there. Again, because this is such a great use case for us in terms of where the world can go. So I mentioned the term digital mesh that Gartner has been talking about for a couple of years. When this world around us is highly instrumented and connected, what opportunities does that give us? What can we do with it? Now, obviously, we show there's a lot of complexity that could be added as you start to add all these new touch points. So, as this morning's keynote was saying, we're trying to get to yes, right? Let's all start to say yes about things. Are we ready? Well, we're kind of ready. We're getting there. And we want to see that future coming, and we want to be able to support it. And now some people think it's too far-fetched. I don't believe that's the case. I'm going to show you a vision of the kinds of touch points that you could have. And you don't need to support all of those, but you do want to be on a journey that allows you to start to experiment with those. So let's see if we can get ready. As we start to add capability for these touch points, typical web, mobile apps, wearable devices, the capabilities that come from that as I interact with things. Maybe this is my identification to the conference. Maybe I'm able to buy things with it. Social commerce, Pinterest. You see things in Pinterest. A lot of times we see things we like. We're watching movies. We're online. We see things we like, but we have no idea of how to get it. We go back to search and try to find those products. So the idea of commerce being embedded in social, where on Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest, I can start to interact with people, share ideas, share things that they may want to buy. Physical. This is where physical and digital come together. If I'm online and T-Mobile looking at different phones, and I come into the store, I don't want to start that whole journey again. I've already kind of whittled it down to a couple phones I want. When I come into the store, I don't want them to kind of go, so who are you, and how long you been a customer, and that kind of thing. Let me look you up and try to find information. You want a more seamless experience where I come in, I have the T-Mobile app, I'm willing to open myself up a little bit and give some information, which, by the way, is an important part of this. You know, even on Carnival Cruise Line, sometimes you're ready to kind of give more information about yourself, the fact that you're into scuba diving or you want to have a beer or whatever. But maybe in a physical retail store, you don't want to give too much information yet. But as you come in, maybe I want those things that are in my shopping cart to be sitting in the change room in that physical store in my size with a couple different options so I can come in and continue that journey. Or maybe I start in the store and I'm able to kind of start that experience in the store and then go back home and then kind of say, those are the two items I really wanted, and finish the journey there. So these experiences are going to be bouncing around between all these touch points. When I come into the physical store, having clienteling applications and mobile point of sale, cloud or line busting applications, I don't want to have to go to a physical desk and have them check me out, know nothing about me. I want to be able to do this where I'm talking to the sales associate, where I have the things and I can just walk out of the store. Right? And sometimes you see some of these future commercials where you don't even have to check out. You just walk out of the store and all the ID, all the sensors on the thing know exactly what I'm walking out with and will automatically charge. So that might be a little far-fetched, but that's the kind of world that's enabled as well. Virtual reality. None of us are ever going to have to leave our house. We can sit on our couch, put these VR goggles on, and shop till your heart's content. You can walk through the aisles of these virtual stores and say, I want some of these, I want some of these. Or again, maybe you're creating your shopping list, and then when you're ready to go to the store, you have a better idea. You don't have to spend 2 hours in Costco. You have a better idea of what you may want. So let's keep adding more and more of these touch points. And my marketing team was getting frustrated with me because I kept adding more, and I probably have another 10 I could add. The point here, again, is there are going to be these touch points that are interesting today, and a lot that are going to come tomorrow. Connected car is something that I'm really excited about. Tesla is a customer of ours, which, again, we're just so thrilled about the kinds of things they want to do. If you go to our booth, we'll show you some concepts around, if I'm in my electric vehicle and I'm driving from Vancouver, Canada to Portland, I'm going to need a charging station along the way. It can start to map that out and go, do I want to pre-book something at one of the stations? And when I'm there, do I want maybe lunch waiting for me or a coffee ready to go? Do you want to book a hotel along the way because it's going to get kind of late? Like that level of personalization within that experience, that's where it's going to get very cool again. So from a user standpoint, they're going to have all these touch points they can go through. And it's going to get more, we're going to see more and more of these. In the old days, we used to call these channels, omni-channel, and we'll talk about why these are not channels. These user journeys going back and forth between these different touch points is going to get complicated. So what happens when you separate the front end from the back end? Well, this is what we're going to be talking about, what T-Mobile has done, and the level of agility they've been able to get from that is quite amazing. So if you have your touch points being managed, say, by a content management system, or you built native apps that run on those devices, those touch points that enable augmented reality or virtual reality, you kind of have that front-end technology that manages that front end. On the back end, underneath you have your systems of record, your SAP, your Oracle systems, your legacy systems, things that we operate the business on. And then you layer in a commerce platform as kind of a way to bring together the things that you want to sell into those touch points. So this is where we decided to become a headless commerce stack because we believe there's so much innovation going on the front end that having a set of templates and a content management system only that kind of controls that user experience is going to be too limiting. So we ripped the head off the stack, and we've been very focused in how do you make those services available to be embedded in the user experience. So obviously you have integration into what I call southbound. Into your applications you have typical enterprise service bus integration into your backend, inventory systems, entitlement systems, pricing engines, order management, financing, all those kinds of things. And then you need a northbound integration. And now what a lot of vendors will do is say, well, let's open up all these endpoints on that commerce platform. Let's make those available and let people come and build applications. Sure, you can do that, but it adds a huge amount of complexity. And if you add more and more of these touch points, all of a sudden you've got this spaghetti of integration between these. Now, I'm Italian. I love pasta. I love my spaghetti. I like it on my plate. I don't like it in my architecture. This is something that drives me crazy. So we have focused very much on trying to avoid this kind of spaghetti integration. So we built something that was really much more focused in not just those microservices and making those available, but really an API system that makes the services of the commerce platform, the services of the systems of record, available to be embedded in that experience. And so we use the term often choreographed commerce services, because you want to have these services that know how to work together. You don't want the client application to have to know, I got to call this API or this microservice, I've got to wire it together with this, I get the data back from this, I got to stitch it together. You don't want that stitching to happen on the front end. I've seen a financial services company that was building a financial application for transferring money. And they had business logic on the client application that was trying to transfer money from one place to another and dealing with all the taxes and the insurance. And they make mistakes there. And they were getting penalized by financial regulators saying you can't transfer money from that place to that place without charging this kind of thing. You want your business logic in one place. And you want, you want that choreographed and orchestrated to some degree within that one place. And that's really where you have this kind of stack with the separation of the front end from the back end. Front end developers are kind of enabled now to do, I talked earlier about unshackling the marketers in the front end. Because the IT services, we're all struggling in IT to build enough of these capabilities to enable those front end experiences. But what we're seeing now is our customers putting together this headless commerce, API-driven system, and then let marketing come in and do what they need to do. Independent. A lot of times the IT group says, I don't even care what they do with it necessarily. I put the security in place. I put the workflows in place. I put these services all together. Marketing can go crazy. If they need something new, I can start to add new capabilities and services, and over time they can use those. So I talk fast. There's a lot there. Didn't have a lot of time. I'd like to start to get into some real-world example of this. And again, I was saying we're honored to have T-Mobile be a customer of ours. Over the last couple of years, they've been putting these pieces in place, tying it to their systems, and enabling those kinds of experiences I mentioned earlier. And you have a CEO like John Ledger at T-Mobile, exciting guy, gets up on stage, he's like, I'm going to take over the world, the Un-carrier, and I love how he calls the other guys dumb, dumber, and the other. So he's very competitive, and he wants to stay ahead. He wants to innovate and excite the market. And he's doing that. I, as a consumer, get very excited by it to a point where I had to be a customer of T-Mobile. So with that, let's bring on Jeff to come up and talk about how they've implemented EP and how they've been able to get this level of agility. Thank you.
Thanks, Sal. So my name's Jeff Jagger. I'm not going to be nearly as dynamic as John Ledger would be, so you'll have to settle with me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about T-Mobile. T-Mobile's Un-carrier is transforming the industry, trying to simplify the customer experience through our Un-carrier moves. These Un-carrier moves are focused on doing one thing, making a better experience and solving our customers' pain points. Over the last 4 years, we've implemented 13 moves that have transformed the industry and made T-Mobile the fastest growing wireless carrier with over 70 million subscribers. Un-carrier moves like simple choice, unlimited talk and text, no annual contracts, no data charges, changed the industry with things like simple global, unlimited text, and no data roaming charges in 14 countries. Carrier freedom. We pay for people to join us. T-Mobile Tuesdays, where our customers get thanked every week with free stuff. And this September, with our most recent move, where T-Mobile families, with T-Mobile One customers with family plans get Netflix on us, so they can binge watch their favorite programs for free. So like I said, T-Mobile has transformed the industry, so not just benefiting our customers, but benefiting all wireless customers. So what I can say to you is, you're welcome. This Un-carrier journey has also caused T-Mobile to go through a transformation. T-Mobile started the journey of digital transformation. Our digital transformation is focused on a digital-first customer experience to seamlessly stitch together our unassisted channels all the way through to our assisted channels. In addition, we're taking a holistic approach to this, dealing with both people, process, and tools. As almost 20 years as a consultant, I could spend the next 20 minutes boring you on digital transformation, people, process, and tool steps. But what I'd rather do is focus you on how this digital transformation has enabled me in my space, the digital commerce domain. T-Mobile has transitioned from an application or a channel-based architecture to a capability or a domain-based structure. These domains, we own the capabilities across the entire organization. Now, instead of having our capabilities spread throughout applications and channels, the domain is accountable for the capabilities to support the customer experience across the whole domain. We've implemented agile processes, not just agile processes from a technology standpoint, but agile processes from a business standpoint, enabling ourselves to move as fast as John Ledger would like us to move. We've transformed our organization, creating roles and training and career paths to support the processes and our domain model. Spend a couple minutes talking about some technology changes. We have a heavy focus on open source. We find that open source enables agility at T-Mobile because we can leverage common frameworks and leverages that are known, trusted, and common, as opposed to requiring all of our devs to have to understand special sauce source code from different systems. If you were here last week, you probably heard at AWS reInvent, probably heard a lot of conversation about cloud-native technologies. For us, cloud-native technologies, and for me as a product owner, the two things it enables for me most are simple deployments through containers and container platforms, and scaling based on load factor, giving us some technology and hardware freedom. So let's talk a little bit about the digital commerce domain. As I mentioned, T-Mobile has transitioned from an application to a domain model. The digital commerce domain, we're responsible for the shopping capabilities across T-Mobile. As you can read, this is our manifesto. In order to support a variety of customer experiences, we support them with APIs. So APIs are our product. Therefore, we approach these APIs with the traditional product management methodology. We evaluate our customer needs. We evaluate performance. We evaluate usage. We talk to our customers to know what's coming, both from a big picture standpoint, what new products may T-Mobile be launching in the next few weeks, months, to customer experience transformations that may be going on. Using that product management approach, we know that we can deliver features and technologies that support what our customers need in the way that they need them. So how do we do that? We focus on our core capabilities. The core capabilities that we own are kind of the traditional flow that Sal talked about, which is shop products through checkout. We provide those services through a series of 54 resources, 84 operations, grouped into about 6 groups. The majority of those are handled via RESTful API technologies, but we also use asynchronous patterns to support some of our back-end integration to provide more flexibility to our customers. There's just times when a request response REST API doesn't meet the needs of the business. So providing options where they can fire an event or trigger a message that will drive actions in the back end, make the system work a little bit more flexible for them. So what led us down the path of choosing Elastic Path? Well, Sal did a great job of explaining all the things it does. I talked about a couple of things earlier, open source and cloud native. And I would say I'd want to focus on two of the things that are most important from a product standpoint from me. The first being headless. When T-Mobile made the decision to separate the front end from the back end, we moved to a point where APIs become our communication, thus the conversation about API as a product. But that front end and back end separation allows the front end to move at whatever pace they need to, and the back end to support with APIs or capabilities. EP's Cortex layer allows us to rapidly create APIs necessary to support our customers and provide the flexibility in a variety of experiences. Another really important piece is extensibility. As you could imagine, the commerce experience for telecom is not just your standard buy 3 pairs of socks, 2 t-shirts, and a pair of jeans, and you're good to go. We have complexity like lines, accounts, plans that require pricing that changes based on the number of lines, maybe the different devices that you're putting in cart, maybe a combination of devices and things that you put in cart. Pricing that's real-time changing based on who you are as a customer and what we know about you and your credit. All of those features require the ability for us to be able to change the system, or in the case of EP, because the way they're architected, what we do is we extend the system, so we leave that source code alone, extend out next to it, so when we can keep up, as EP makes changes, we can adopt those changes quickly and keep our system moving along. Now, before I bring Sal back up to talk a little bit more about headless, I want to talk about innovation. Innovation for my domain, we like to think of it as part of our DNA. We dedicate about 10% of our fiscal budget towards innovation. But what does innovation mean when you're a service provider, an API layer? The way we think of innovation is creating pilots or POCs to help our customers come up with new ways to use our system. So these POCs are often really rough. There'll be a screenshot of one later that'll show that what the focus from what we're trying to do is try to show customers that while you typically are using the APIs maybe on your web page or maybe in the app, here's a different way that you can use those APIs to deliver some new features or some new functionality. Turn that over to our business partners and let them focus on that experience layer. Let them figure out how to make that come to life, knowing that we have the back-end architecture that supports anything they want to do. Sal, you want to join me for talking about headless?
So when we first started working with T-Mobile, we understood their vision. They had a lot of legacy. They were very interested in changing the market. And they recognized the need for innovation in their DNA. And I've worked with a lot of carriers, network operators in the past, and I was very, very surprised at how quickly these guys are moving. They were very focused on Agile and continuous integration, continuous delivery, all the kind of great things we do from a technical standpoint, but trying to go beyond that. So I would imagine for people in the audience here, I don't know what kinds of organizations you're in, but a lot of people have a hard time getting started. They're like, I go back to my office after these great conferences, and I've got all this legacy and technology that's in place. How do we even get started with a Facebook bot or a simple integration with some of these other touch points, play around with these proof of concepts? How did you guys get started, and how do you get past that inertia of getting moving?
Well, the way we got started was we actually focused small. About 2 years ago, we started a project to implement a new web page, a new website. In that desire, it was when T-Mobile made a decision to separate the front end from the back end. So going into that project, we knew we were going to do it differently than how it had always been done before. T-Mobile, in their legacy website, had all of their logic embedded in either .NET code or right there at the UI. So when we started down the path, we picked a very specific project with a very specific goal and outcome, new customer acquisition on T-Mo.com. So as a fly fisherman, when you approach a big river, you always try to figure out where to fish, and I love to fly fish. The way you attack a big river is the way we attack this problem. You make that river smaller, trying to figure out where the best place to start would be, and attack it there, which is exactly how we did it.
So does that mean rip and replace, though? I mean, do you start from scratch? I mean, we all have a lot of existing investment. How do you get going? Can you layer stuff on? Can you get started?
So we've approached it with more of a layer stuff on. So in the initial implementation, I guess it was a little bit of a rip and replace because we actually completely replaced the underlying. We actually completely disconnected the underlying for our starting point and then started hooking back up based on what the needs were from the front end. But it was definitely an approach of start small, a very simple transaction. New customer buying T-Mobile One. We were actually part of the T-Mobile One Un-carrier launch, was our first launch. Very specific use case to make it manageable. And then over the last 18 months, we've just started to add more and more to that.
One of the things that really excited me by when we saw the implementation they were doing of this headless stack with the APIs and allowing some self-sufficiency and creating this shared service delivery model where IT builds the solution, they build a layer, they give the documentation, the training. They're almost like a software house themselves. They're shipping a service every 3 months, 6 months. And they have product managers that are supporting that and saying, this new version now has this. And we've been a part of that. One of the things I got really excited about was what you started to have these unexpected innovations that, as you push APIs to the edge, all of a sudden innovation seems to come out of other places. So I don't know if you can talk a little bit about something like the Facebook type of integrations that you guys did.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, this is a really rudimentary picture of what a POC would look like out of our organization. But what we found with this headless engine was when we turned it over to our developers who know how the system works, who know how those APIs work, how those interact with the back end, the things that we could get out of them were fantastic. They're like, well, what if we did this? What if we created a Facebook bot, natural language chat, and we did shopping through chat? It's like, yeah, right. Within 2 weeks, one of our developers created a Facebook bot that did shopping through chat. What was really cool about this is we have a team at T-Mobile whose job is really kind of innovation, distributed commerce focus. They came to us and they said, hey, we did this experiment last year where we did like an accessory sale on Facebook. And we're like, really? Well, why don't you look at this? And we showed them this Facebook bot that showed not an accessory experience, but purchasing a device with T-Mobile One and optional services via a natural language chatbot. And within 4 weeks, had it deployed in a pilot state on Facebook. And I think it was actually, Nick Drake actually did a keynote presentation at Facebook's conference this year on our success of it. So it's a really cool thing that when you turn over that knowledge and you can just do different things. We don't build APIs. We build APIs that can be used in a variety of ways.
Right. So maybe you guys can start to think of a couple of questions. And just as I don't know, do we have microphones? Are people able to ask questions? But just as people are starting to think of questions, let me just kind of, as a quick reminder, the kinds of things we're talking about here really, regardless of whether you use Elastic Path or any other commerce vendor solution or your own, and we're seeing a lot of people kind of building out these kind of microservices, I think the message we're trying to get across here is that separation of concerns. It's allowing, and Gartner's done a great job years ago talking about the pace layering model. The systems of record, systems of differentiation, and systems of innovation. This is kind of, those are the kinds of things that inspired this type of layered architecture and that separation, the fact that these lanes move very differently at different paces. And in the old days when you had mobile web, and that's what everyone was talking about, yeah, you definitely wanted some ability to move quickly. But now when you have, if you believe in even a couple of those kind of touch points being important in the future, you're going to need that level of innovation and speed. So hopefully that gets across our approach to things, why somebody like T-Mobile has been able to benefit from that, why customers like Tesla and Carnival Cruise Line and Intuit Software and a bunch of other customers that found the single stack solutions that had it all kind of in one were a little bit too limiting for them. So hopefully this gives you some thinking about the Internet of Things, the devices, the touch points, and the new kinds of experiences. And hopefully you can delight your customers with that type of experience. So thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll see you around at the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.